Hi, my name is Jeremy, and Charlie and I will be talking about Module 6. The first thing I read was Chapter 2, The Transformation of Urban America. This chapter examines the changes cities have undergone since the pre-industrial period up until now. The pre-industrial city in the 17th and 18th centuries consisted of mainly agriculture, and cities were limited in their growth ability due to the lack of transportation methods. After this stage came the industrial city, which started in the 1830s. This period introduced many new things such as railroads, new sources of energy, the automobile, etc. After this period came the third wave known as the post-industrial stage, which we are still currently in. With this period came the importance of information, which led to more people working in offices or at home, more specialization, manufacturing decline, etc. The main thing to understand is that these big metropolitan areas have emerged as major centers of economic activity in the nation and in the world. However, this is only good for the top metro areas that are able to compete in the global market. I believe that this could be bad for our nation, as metro areas that are not as competitive, which is the majority of all cities in the US, will likely experience increasing levels of unemployment and poverty. The next thing I read was the article by Leah Binkovitz, which talks about how assumptions on how people occupy public spaces have changed. It used to be believed that people would occupy space based on the idea of street theater, which means that men watch women. Now, based on observations using AI, that idea is no longer the basis for how people occupy public space. This is important because it will change the way designers think when designing public spaces, especially in highly populated areas. Next, I watched the crash course video Geographies of the Future, which talks about the effects of globalization and the changes happening in cities. One thing I thought was really interesting was the idea of slow cities, which are basically cities that are kept old-fashioned on purpose, are not as technologically advanced as others, and value culture a lot. We could see more and more cities adopt this idea of a slow city as a response to globalization, which is making places around the world very similar. Another thing talked about is the rise of data and surveillance. Urban cities are growing in the amount of surveillance they have, and that surveillance is used to extract data about our locations and identities. Although this concept is used to make cities safer, I feel that if this rise of surveillance keeps increasing, there could be some negative effects regarding invasion of privacy. Finally, I watched the Dr. Townsend lecture where he talks about autonomous vehicles and how they could be a big part of sustainable future cities, and the goal is to have a driverless city. The way people would get around is by driverless shuttles, which have been incorporated into hundreds of cities, and this would solve an urban mobility problem. There are also self-driving scooters that could be used heavily in the future. The Starship KiwiBot is a small vehicle that can be used to deliver shopped goods such as groceries. Drones could be a very carbon-efficient way to deliver things from e-commerce stores such as Amazon. All these vehicles and this relatively new technology of autonomous vehicles could be one of the big solutions to creating sustainable cities in the future. We could see these vehicles become very common in cities across the world in the next maybe 20 years and could be the change that contributes the most to sustainable cities.
Hey, this is Charlie Langan, and I'm going to be talking about Lesson 6.2. So first, I read Chapter 1 of Abbott's Imagining for Urban Futures. Abbott opens up with kind of talking about what we picture when we talk about futuristic cities with flying cars and whatnot. And he says that cities are vast and complex machines for moving things around, and science fiction often suggests that this movement will be slicker in the future. And this kind of made me think about how every time we picture future cities, we always think about new ways of transportation. He uses the term technocity for the future metropolis because of the imagined technological advances, and he talks about some interesting ideas that have been had in the past for future city designs. Um, so this includes, like a linear city, which was originally called Ciudad Lineal, which is a road lined with Empire State Buildings that would have connected Cadiz, Madrid, and St. Petersburg. Next, I read The Prospects of Artificial Intelligence in Urban Planning by Sanchez. He opens up with the definition of AI, explaining what it is, and then he says that the combination of urban planning and data science applications can generate innumerable alternatives for decision-making processes. And a bulk of this report is a survey of APA members on their knowledge and opinions on the significance of AI. The average age of the survey respondents was 46 years old, and their average work experience was 16 years in planning. And I'm not trying to undermine these experts at all, but they're experts in planning, and AI has changed a lot in the last 50 years. So at first I was a little skeptical, but um, I kept reading, and the respondents of all ages reported that they had stronger familiarity with data than with AI, and they also all ranked the significance of AI relatively high. Also, the youngest age group, which is 18 to 24 years old, had the highest familiarity with AI and ranked its significance the highest. And I personally believe that we 100% should implement AI into urban planning. Next, I watched the Mon Uncle video, and there's a they talk about how there's a great contrast between the ultra modern home and the old time neighborhood. And it was really interesting to hear how, the main character's goofy attitude feels natural in this urban setting, as opposed to the modern home where it's kind of denied. And I think this is because they mentioned in the video that the modern home feels like a more rational space with all these different technologies to make life more efficient. And next, I found it funny how the movie included some absurdity in the ultra-modern technologies, such as the wacky chairs that looked ridiculous and uncomfortable, and the obnoxious front gate to the modern house. I thought that was really funny. Finally, I have some additional content. I found a video called AI in Urban Planning Helps Improve Design and Outcomes. I put it in the discussion post for Module 6 as well. First, I talk about how we use AI because there's so many calculations, simulations, analyses, and consequences that are related and intertwined in planning. They say that with AI, you can be explicit about what your goals and challenges are, and the software helps you find the best answer to said challenges. Finally, talk about how humans are good at framing and reframing problems, and the AI is does the more laborious tasks that involve data and looking at thousands and thousands of outcomes and permutations. And in my opinion, it's almost as if humans and AI work better together than on their own. So I thought that was interesting.